So, good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Aishwarya Iyer.
Hi, Justine.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be on this podcast and to chat with you.
Me too. I'm excited to chat with you because there's so many things that I feel like we can talk about that relate to the people that are listening and watching, whether it's Brightland, which we'll get into in a minute, your
Yes.
journey as an entrepreneur, food, all these different things. So, before we kick it off, so that our listeners and our viewers know who we're talking to, would you just please introduce yourself with your name, your title, and what
Yes.
you do?
And who I am. Yes, absolutely. So I'm Aishwarya Iyer. I go by Ash. So
You could have
everyone
told me
calls
that
me Ash.
originally.
I should have
Really,
told
I
you.
worked very hard at saying your name properly.
I love to do that to people. It's a party trick. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Brightland. We make beautiful, delicious, indulgent olive oils, vinegars, and honey. We source directly from independent farmers in California. We've been around for the last 4.5 years, and it's been such a whirlwind. And I love food. I love wine. I love hanging out with my dogs. I love gardens. And I love putting my phone away because I think phones are crazy. And that is really my state of mind right now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, okay, well, we're going to talk about Brightland, but first, tell me about your dogs.
Oh, yeah, I have two dogs, Madison and Crosby, named after two special streets in New York City that I
I was
lived
going to guess
on.
that.
Yep. Madison is a cockapoo sort of old girl, and then Crosby is a half Yorkie schnauzer situation, and he's a grumpy old man. And they really are darlings. They're amazing. Do you have
I
pets?
bet. I do. I have two dogs, a Chihuahua and a Tweenie,
Oh,
Minnie and Misty.
oh my God, I love those names.
They're very cute, and adopted Minnie when we came back from Mexico City first by way of fostering. And
Mhm.
everybody said to me, "No, you're going to keep that dog." I'm like, "No, no, no, it's just temporary."
Mhm.
Anyway, long story short, it's 9 years later or something. Oh no, it's
Oh,
not 9 years later. She's now 9. She was 3 when I got her. And then Tim said about a year or two later, "I think you should get another one." So we got Misty, and now we have our two lovely dogs.
they're the best, truly.
They are. They make the family whole. They bring it all together.
They
They give a
do.
lot of love. It's unconditional.
Yep.
They never get mad.
Nope.
So do you have a third child? Is it Brightland?
Brightland, yes, yes, yeah. Founded almost 5 years ago. And yeah, I mean, truly, like it has been a whirlwind. I did not set out to become an entrepreneur. I will tell you that. I wasn't one of those people that was like lemonade stand or trading baseball cards or whatever that people did. I really thought that I was going to be either a lawyer or a news anchor. I had like dreams of becoming an optometrist. So I was all over the map.
You were all over you
I
really
was
were.
super all over the map, but entrepreneur or CEO was definitely not one of them. And I think when you care about something a lot and when you're curious, it can lead you down lots of paths and end up changing your life. And I became really curious and interested in the world of oils and cooking oils and olive oils. And the more I dug, the more intrigued I got. And here we are.
Wow, amazing. So what were you doing before this? Is there something in your background that lended itself naturally to this?
So the short answer is no, but the longer answer is absolutely now when I look back and can thread the dots. From a short answer standpoint, I started my career at L'Oreal at Lancome, and then I pivoted into the tech world, and I was working at early stage startups, having a blast, but again, not thinking about entrepreneurship anyway in any way. But the skills that I learned in those places, so at L'Oreal, I think CPG, the interest in consumer products, the interest in positioning and brand and naming, that all kind of got lodged in my brain. And then when I was at the startups, I learned what it was like to be nimble, to work really quickly, to be comfortable with discomfort, to be open with the gray. Not everything is black or white. And I think those things stuck with me so much that now being a part of the Brightland ship or manning the ship, I'm not that, it takes a lot for me to get kind of like tossed in the ocean of,
Yeah,
of,
I
uh,
can imagine. I mean, being an entrepreneur, you have to go out of your comfort zone.
yeah,
You have to be able to be open to new things and not
yes,
stuck on one thing, because what you came up with originally, after you do research or after you test the market or after things evolve and life changes and things shift, so does whatever you're producing or creating.
exactly.
And so and I think not being scared of that and not holding on so tightly that you're not open to that really makes you a good entrepreneur. I mean, it's what entrepreneurship is about.
Thank you for saying that. And I think that goes really nicely with this kind of really firm belief that I have that two things can be true at the same time,
Mhm.
right? You can be really enjoying the ride of whatever journey you're on, but also be scared about what's ahead or also have some regrets. Like two things can absolutely be true, and there's no like absolute.
Mhm.
That has being getting comfortable with that as a concept and as a construct of like how I live my life has been sort of game changing too.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, I think that that's really great insight for founders and people that are interested in starting businesses to hear,
Mm,
because it can be overwhelming. It can be confusing for people.
yes.
And many times people often feel like it's not possible.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you change the narrative a little bit, so much more becomes open to you and possible.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot around like the inner critic and the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. When I was thinking about starting this, I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think I was possible. That was the big part about it. Like I was like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. Why would anyone ever want to listen to me? And I had to really unravel where that was coming from. And it was like my seventh grade self or my 10th grade self not feeling good enough. And
Right.
that was the self that was coming out. So I had to almost like go revisit that person and be like, you're okay. It's okay. And you can go out and try something. And if it doesn't work, it's okay.
Well, I think that kind of sentiment is really a very important part of the whole growth, right? Because
Yeah.
you're revisiting the things that could potentially be barriers for you
Yeah.
and recognizing why that's a challenge for you. And if you can address that, you've got a better chance of being able to move forward in a more positive way. I mean,
Absolutely.
similarly, when I was in third grade, I was scared of being wrong.
Mm,
I didn't like to raise my hand and be wrong.
mm.
And now I think I've built a backbone. I have an opinion. If you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me. If I don't agree with you, we don't agree, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But I don't think, it felt so like so much was on the line about getting that answer right
Yep. I completely
that
understand.
I had to, does that make sense to you?
How have you moved past it now?
I think, we're years later, right? So at third grade, I was what, 9. Now I'm 51. So I've got a few years, a little bit of experience. And I think the one thing is realizing what I was interested in. And
Mm,
when I found what I was interested in, I found that I just wanted to learn more. I found that I was open to not being right, but getting educated
yeah.
and realizing what my skill set is, what my superpower is, right?
Yeah.
And so as a result, it gave me a place to come from strength, even if I don't always have the answers. And to me, that's a solid thing to say. I don't know all the answers. In fact, that's why I bring all these people on my podcast so that
Yes.
they can help you make more informed choices. You
I
being the audience,
I
right?
love that so much and I resonate with it so much because I tell my team all the time, I better be the dumbest person in the room when I'm with y'all. Like I hired an amazing team to exactly provide that guidance and people that I can learn from and that we can all learn from each other and get better and build this company into something really special.
When
So
did
I
you
really
realize you needed to have a team that was smarter than you or knew more than you? Because I learned it
mm,
from my mother. I can tell you that.
mm. When did I learn that? That is such a good question. I think that I learned from it. I learned that when I started trying to separate my ego from what was actually the right decision for the company. Yeah. And when I
Was there something
started,
pivotal that happened that made you aware of that?
no, I think that it was honestly, I think it was like tough lessons learned over time,
Mhm.
and it was mistakes. And I think it was a series of them that ended up making me think, wait, why am I getting in my own way? Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody else, that another founder or somebody else that really wanted to go out and build their own business
Mm,
and kept finding reasons why they couldn't do it? Because to me, you're your own worst enemy there,
yeah.
right? And you're stopping the progress. So what might you say to them? What could you recommend?
I honestly think one exercise that I think could be really helpful is write out 3 or 4 questions that you would want people in your life, like good friends, family members, like people in your circle, to answer about you. Like, hey, what's your biggest superpower? Um, why do you believe in me? Like, really basic questions like that, and send it around to 10 or 15 people, ask them to answer it, and then read what they have to say. And I think starting there by saying, oh my God, this is how other people see me. Why aren't I seeing this in myself? Because at the end of the day, we have to be our own biggest champions and best friends. And we are, like, I always say, like, I'm the greatest love of my life. Like, I love my husband. I love my family. But I have to also be the greatest love of my life. And I think being able to like shift to that will then lead to a place of like thinking that things are possible. Even when things are tough, and things will be tough and things may not go in the right way, but at least opens up the mindset to think that things are possible rather than think that things are impossible.
I love that. I never thought about, I mean, I never thought about thinking of myself as the love of my life. And I think that that's such, to be able to do that is very empowering, right? To be able to
Yeah.
say that, to own that is really empowering.
Because then you come
And
from a place of love no matter what. If you love yourself and you truly believe that, then you're radiating it. And like it's the universe, like sort of shifts in that way. Not to get so woo woo, we're both. You're a New Yorker, and I lived there for so long, and here we are talking about this. But I firmly believe it.
yeah, no, I think that that's it's an amazing sort of story to tell yourself. And I don't mean it in a story in like that it's made up, but in a story to narrate to yourself, and to create
Absolutely,
that narrative for you to build from.
absolutely.
So when you decided on olive oil, what was it about olive oil and all the different things, honey? I didn't even
Yeah,
know you made honey.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Try your honey.
we started with olive oil. And the reason for that was I come from a family of very passionate, very judgmental home cooks who who are very quick to ask, what are you eating for lunch? What are you eating for dinner? It better be home food. And so I totally went the other direction, lived in New York for a decade and never cooked, like was out every night, living it up, and then slowly started shifting. I always say, like, the things that you run away from, you end up like going back towards as you get older. And so started going back into cooking, and just being more mindful about the ingredients, right? Like I was going to the Union Square Farmers Market. I
Mhm.
was looking at what kind of kale am I buying? Maybe I shouldn't be like love Trader Joe's, but maybe I shouldn't be buying all my like produce from there. And as I got more conscious and thoughtful, I kept coming back to the foundation of all of our meals, which is olive oil or cooking oil. And I was like, am I using a good quality? Like, I don't even know. What am I using? And so I started Googling, like, what is good olive oil? What's bad olive oil? And when I Googled bad olive oil, there were some like crazy articles about the Italian mafia maybe being involved at one point in the olive oil trade. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is insane. I also love like The Godfather and like that whole like Soprano. So I was like, this is wild and interesting. And so it just became this like pop culture meets my own personal interests, meets my family's interests, like everything coming together. And couldn't get it out of my head. Started just researching the world of olive oil more. And when I was in California, I started visiting some olive farms, and that blew me away because I was like, wait, I thought good olive oil was only found in Europe. So the fact that the United States is producing gorgeous, beautiful extra virgin olive oil right here, there's something really amazing about that. Is there a way for me to partner with any of these farmers to like tell that story? And that was the genesis.
And so what was your next step?
Mm.
You realized you wanted to partner with the farmers, because partnering with the farmers was going to allow you to choose. Are you going regenerative? Are you going organic? Are you have so many choices and things.
I didn't even know what those things meant. Well, I didn't know what those things meant because I was coming from the world of tech, right? So I was coming from like a really I think naive, very I think newcomer sort of mentality. And so honestly, a lot of people didn't take my calls. Like a lot of people, like I remember emailing a bunch of people and no one responded. Or I would show up and they'd be like, this is very cute that you have this project in mind. Like, bye-bye.
Project.
Yeah. But what I did was try to educate myself. I read an incredible book that I would highly recommend to people called Extra Virginity by Tom Muller. That was a big point of education, like kind of like a stepping stone. And then I took classes at the UC Davis Olive Center, which there's a real place that it's like the olive oil center, and they research olive oil and the chemical and sensory analysis of it. And just, it was a really wonderful place to learn. So I got a little more educated there. And then I found a farming family that decided to take a chance on me. And they did practice, organic regenerative. They had organic regenerative practices. And so I was really excited by that. And that's how we got started.
That's amazing. So what was the first store you got into?
Well, so we started direct to consumer. So originally it was from shipping from my little office. Like it was me and some interns packing bottles and boxes. It was crazy. Like we were packing thousands of boxes, which makes no sense. So we started doing that, and we were shipping directly to customers around the country. But the first or second week that we launched, we got an inquiry from a really cute lifestyle store in Brooklyn. And so we said, they were like, we'd love to carry your olive oil. And I was so excited. And that was the first store that carried us.
Which store in Brooklyn?
Oh my God, they're not open anymore, but it was called like Now Looking, or like some really cute name, and it was chic, and it was in Cobble Hill. Yeah, unfortunately they closed during the pandemic, but
I was thinking, the store Whisk?
Oh yeah, love that store. Oh my God.
I love that store too. But I was like, they should sell your olive oil there.
They really should.
Stuff, right? I think Whisk would be a perfect spot. And they've got the one in Brooklyn, but don't they have one?
They have one in Manhattan.
Bedford Cheese is what opened in Gramercy area, or Irving. I think it's Bedford Cheese, but also it could be sold at Bedford Cheese.
They should, totally. Let's if anyone from Bedford Cheese or Whisk is listening, please
we'll send it to them. Yes. And we'll tell them how much we like that. My friend actually lived in the building above Whisk on Bedford when she first bought her first apartment with her husband. And so I would go to Whisk when I was on my way up, right? It was literally the corner store, and you'd open the gate, and then they had these, apartments above it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so that's alrighty. So where are you sold here? I'm just curious. In the Bay Area, she says selfishly, since that's where I am.
We are about to be sold at every Whole Foods this summer.
Amazing.
Which we're so excited about.
That's a big deal. What was that process like?
It was its own journey. They reached out about a year after we launched, and I had an amazing call with a former buyer there. And I was like, unfortunately, we're going to have to say no to you, which was a crazy thing, because I think like brands don't say no to Whole Foods, but I didn't think we were ready.
Right.
Operationally, infrastructure, like I wanted to make sure we did it right when we did it. And so I said no. And then they reached out the next year, and I said no again. And then they reached out again. And then finally we were like, okay, I think we're ready. And so they've been incredible partners, and I love them so much. And yeah, we're really excited to continue growing with them. And
So
we're in a
how did you
bunch.
know? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I was
No,
just
no, no,
asking how you
please.
knew it was finally that moment to say
Yeah.
yes.
We had some team members who, like, it was ready from a team member standpoint. And they also said, well, what about you launch just in one store to start to test it? And that felt really like achievable.
Hmm.
And that's how we started.
That's amazing because I've heard so many different stories about, local Whole Foods and going to stand online to these days where, do you know what I'm talking about? Where they look at products. I
Oh,
don't know if they
yeah.
still do this, but
Yeah, people have all kinds of stories. I mean, I think we've been really lucky with our retail partnerships so far, but I'm sure as our story continues, I'll have the craziest stories over time.
so you've been at this now for 4 or 5 years. Did you go after raising money? Did you bootstrap this?
I bootstrapped for the first year and a half, and then we got to a place where I was saying no more than I was saying yes to whether it was making the product, whether it was being able to hire someone, whether it was an interesting marketing partnership. And that was the sign for me of like, we are giving up growth because I'm bootstrapping it. And I've also proved out enough product market fit. There's a lot of demand from all avenues. And so I went out and raised like an angel friends and family round. And then about a year and a half ago, I raised like a seed round, still from like mostly family offices and angels. And we had one amazing like lead investor join. But I feel incredibly lucky, and also it was strategic of me, I guess, to bring on people who really believe in Brightland, who are 100% supportive in our kind of in
Hmm.
everything that we're doing. And that has been a lot of founders tell me like their investors give them a lot of a headache, and I can't say that about ours. So I feel lucky.
Was it scary bringing the investors on when everything you had done until this point was all because you made it happen?
Two things can be true at the same time. So yes, scary, but also really grateful and excited and like jazzed to say, wow, this is going to accelerate our growth. And I can now hire that, director of operations that I couldn't afford and all of that stuff. Like that
Yeah.
opened up a lot of doors for us.
I would imagine. Did you, as you're talking to these investors and you're bringing them on board, did you look at it as, was it just a financial investment, or was there human capital as well as part of um, that raise?
It was mostly financial. Yeah.
Mostly financial. You did,
Yeah.
because I always think it's interesting, right? When you bring people on, sometimes people need the resources of the knowledge,
Yeah.
sometimes they need the finances, and sometimes they need both.
Yeah. It was a little bit,
Um,
I had a couple of amazing folks who came on board as like advisors to the company
mhm.
early on. One of the founders of Sweet Green and, a couple of really amazing
Amazing.
people. Yeah. So they were really instrumental in, I think, like opening my again, I was really naive. So, which I think is the right move, actually, like for any entrepreneurs listening who are early in their journey, like stay naive because it keeps you just also like looking at the positive. Because had I
Mhm.
known everything I know now and how hard it all is, I don't know if I would do it. Maybe.
Really?
I think I would, but I would go in with the sort of like, oh my God, like a lot more fear than I did.
Yeah, I could see that. I could also see, though, right? So let's just look, you're 5 years in, let's look 5 years later, right?
Yeah.
You could have a whole exit. You could sell to, um, give me a big olive oil company, Colavita. I'm just making it up. Okay. And you could have some other journey that you then go on. And now, because you've learned all these lessons along the way, you have more information to make more informed
It's true.
choices too.
Yeah.
And you'll make new mistakes, right?
That's it.
So I think there's a balance, right? I think, yes, it could be scary because now you know more, but it can also be really comforting because you know more. Like you said, two things true at the same time,
Completely.
right?
Yeah. But I'm pretty calm. So I think
You
overall,
seem very calm to me.
yeah. Yeah. I want to build this company in a calm, strategic, calm, cool, collected way. So even when we make decisions, it's calm and like we got this. It's going to be okay. And if it's not, we'll figure it out one step at a time, rather than, I've been a part of companies where it's like, like really chaotic. And people are making a lot of decisions rooted in fear and scarcity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I was having a conversation earlier where I was talking to somebody and I said, I think when we make these decisions, sometimes we have to take a minute and not react, but rather give us that moment to reflect and then respond.
Yes.
Because what may seem scary, if you surround yourself with more knowledgeable people that can help guide you and create the resources or provide the resources for you to better understand what the challenges are as a result, you come from a better place of strength, less fear, and you can handle it.
You said it beautifully. Exactly.
So I want to go back to your olive oil for a second, because I want to know how you perceive it's different and more revolutionary than some of the other olive oils out there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I was looking at the market, I think I was looking at two things: the outside, what's the packaging, the outside, and what's inside. And for the most part, grocery store olive oils, the word on the street is that a lot of them are like kind of old, we don't know when they were made. We don't know who made them. It doesn't really say like harvest date. It doesn't really talk about olive varietals. There isn't much going on. And so those were the things that I wanted to change up and say, hey, you know what? For this kind of olive oil, we use Arbequina and Arbesana olives. Here's what that means. Here's what it's going to taste like. Here's when it was made. Here's where it was made. Here's how it was made. Milled in within 90 minutes, like and stored in stainless steel temperature controlled rooms. Like, we share that because I think most people don't. And then I think from an outside perspective, I used to walk the Whole Foods and grocery store aisles, and I just noticed people looked very confused when they were in the olive oil set, and they were just like, I don't know what to buy. And I thought, why not build something or create something that is so beautiful that you're like, oh my God, I want this on my kitchen countertop. I want to give this to somebody. I want this for myself, and make it something really covetable and exciting. So that way, then you're also more present and aware when you try what's inside too, rather than being like, it's the same old oil. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to, add it to whatever and keep moving on. So we love to tell our customers, like, yes, it's pretty and that's great, but open up a bottle, really taste the oil on its own, and like think about what the flavor profile and the tasting notes are. And you should taste green, herbaceous, grassy, maybe fruity. Like, you should taste nuanced things because it basically is a fruit juice.
And how many flavors do you have? Because I know that, or do you call them flavors? Is that the wrong way to?
No, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. We have 2 flagship oils. One is like really robust, peppery. The other one's a little milder, a little more buttery. And then we have infused sort of flavored oils. So garlic infused, basil flavor, lemon, chili, rosemary. And then we even came out with something called a pizza oil, where we blended jalapeno, basil, garlic, rosemary, oregano together to make this. And it's so fun on pizza. Like, it's the best accompaniment. It's like the best.
I love like garlic and rosemary olive oils.
So good.
Because it can change the dynamic of a very simple salad in a heartbeat.
Exactly. It adds so much magic. And I always tell people, like, you don't even need to like mince garlic. You can use our garlic oil, or you don't need to buy pesto, because you can use the basil oil. So it really works as like an amazing hack too.
I love that. So I know you mentioned you have these olive oils, you have honey, you mentioned a few other things. Can you just remind me?
Yes, we have vinegars as well. So we have a blackberry balsamic vinegar and a citrus champagne vinegar.
That sounds amazing.
So good. The blackberries are Triple Crown blackberries that are double fermented with California Chardonnay grapes. And then the citrus champagne vinegar is They're made with Navel and Valencia oranges that are double fermented with Zinfandel grapes, and they are so punchy and zesty and like bright, zingy is what I like to say, and also grown, like all made in a regenerative, organic, family-run farm. It's a husband and wife in the Central Coast, and they're really standouts. I can't like recommend them highly enough. And then we have 2 honeys as well.
Wow. That's a lot of SKUs for a short amount of time.
We've been cranking them out. But you know what's funny? It is a lot, but it's also not a lot when I look at like the grand scheme of so many consumer product brands. People come out with like products every other month. Like in
Wow.
beauty and fashion, like you look at, other categories, and even in food, I've seen a lot of folks like they suddenly have, 50, 60 SKUs or products. But we've been, I think, methodical and intentional, but also
Mhm.
like want to make sure that our customers are like being delighted.
I bet. I can't. I want to try. I'm excited. I want to try
Oh
the
yeah.
one or two of the olive oils, and I want to try that vinegar. And I'm very curious about the honey.
Oh
Is
yeah.
it? Do you filter your honey? Is it unfiltered?
It's
Is it
unfiltered, it's
flavored?
raw.
I
It's
love unfiltered raw honey.
it's unfiltered raw honey. One is a like a wildflower and the other one is an orange blossom, and they're
Mm.
really delicious.
Well, that's super. And so, okay. So, what was the first item you had that you kicked it off with?
We kicked off with 2 flagship olive oils.
Okay. So those were the ones with the different. You said they were green and grassy, and one
Yeah,
was more bright, right?
exactly. Yep, exactly. So we
Wow,
launched with
such
those
such
2.
such an amazing line of beautiful products that are built with
Thank you.
farmers that build organic and that use organic and regenerative practices,
Yes.
which I think is just the epitome of what we're trying to support here in terms of building a more regenerative and sustainable future. And so you sharing that story and the fact that you didn't even know about it, but then learned about it and made the choice to
Yeah.
work with somebody like that, I think is really important.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, every single choice we make matters so much. And if we can inspire and delight people to be more mindful about their cooking basics, like an olive oil, then we've done our jobs.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's super important because I think if there's, as you're talking about this and I'm learning about all these things, and you mentioned, people go to the grocery store and they look really confused.
Yeah.
What's one thing you might tell them when they go to the grocery store to help them in their journey to choose that right olive oil? Hopefully, Brightland is one.
I think a couple things. One, don't buy olive oil that is in a open glass, like where you can see through. It should not be
Okay.
see through. One of olive oil's biggest enemies is light. So never buy an olive oil that is see-through. And then the second is always look for a harvest date, not just a best by date, because a harvest date truly tells you when an olive oil was made. And that's important because you want to make sure that it was made, maybe like max a couple years before, because otherwise, if you don't know when it was made, it could be 3, 4, 5 years old. And at that point, the oil is definitely rancid.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all this great conversation, all the information. I love following your journey, and I can't wait to try more products.
Thanks,
So for those
Justine.
guests, oh, it's my pleasure. For those guests and folks watching, and if they wanted to learn more about Brightland, where would you send them to?
Yes, I would send them to brightland.co, our website. I would also send them to check out our Instagram. It's at We Are Brightland. And you can start there. And yeah,
And if somebody was looking to partner with you or, get in touch to maybe carry the product, who would they reach out to and how would they do that?
yeah, just DM us on Instagram and someone will definitely route you in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Justine. This was wonderful.
It was great.